Hey, what up YouTube, and welcome back to a new video with Rams Fan YT. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my National League predictions for the upcoming season. Slightly later than I usually do them, so hopefully, considering that we have been more transfers and stuff, that they may be a bit more accurate representation of what they actually end up being this season. If you do follow a National League team, let me know your thoughts for up your club in this upcoming season, or maybe you're just generic predictions. Who's going to be promoted? Who's going to be relegated? Anyway, we're going to start off with 24th, and I've gone to Boston United for this spot. It was a bit of a great escape last season in the second half of the season. Many times, I think they were exposed as a bit fragile at the back. They ultimately did stay up by only 3 points, and I think we can all agree that the promoted teams this season are incredibly strong. Graham Coughlin has always guided a team to a relegation battle, and therefore I think, unfortunately, they are condemned to the drop. They do have some great players with the likes of St Kitts and Nevis international Jacob Hazel, long throw specialist Jordan Cropper, and last season's National League North promotion winner Michael Kelly. But by far the best signing is, of course, Lionel John Lewis. His name is up. If you know, you know. It is noteworthy of a loss of experience with Michael Bostwick going, as well as Adam Marriott. I personally think Reece Lovett and Bobby Jones are both a downgrade on Cameron Gregory as well. Goal-scoring midfielder Keaton Ward will also be a huge loss, and I don't think Tom Leake was given the opportunity to prove himself at the National League level. I just look at the squad and I see it fundamentally as a downgrade from last season and therefore relegation. 23rd, Yeovil Town. Under the surface, it was obvious that Yeovil weren't well prepared for last season, and an 18th place finish showed that. And if they take another step backwards, next season relegation will be the likely outcome. This isn't necessarily Mark Cooper's fault, but he has a squad made of National League South quality trying to compete in the National League. Aidan Stone, for me, is all mouth but no quality, and was the reason Yeovil sunk down the league in the second half of the season. Finn Cousin Dawson looked out of his depth last season, only really experiencing relegation battles over his career. Twamley has been brought in. That is a huge jump up for him, as he was in the Southern League last season. So we'll see if he can bridge that gap. Aaron Jarvis and Brett McGavin were part of that squad which got Torquay relegated. And on a whole, there's just been a raft of inexperienced players. It's just where the overall squad is for me. They also, so far, only have a squad of 16, so very threadbare. I just have a feeling of a long, drawn-out season resulting in relegation. 22nd, Solihull Moors. The first of my truly, maybe radically mad calls. If you've been a long-time viewer of this channel, you'll know how mad some of the calls I've made in the past are. But whoever decided to appoint Matthew Taylor deserves to be sacked alongside Taylor himself. Since coming in January, he has a points per game of 1.1 and only a win basically 1 in 5 games. That's a relegation form over the course of a whole season. And poaching him from Wellston, who are a team who was mired in a relegation battle last season, is quite frankly a stupid move. With Aston Villa, Birmingham City and Coventry City all having huge successes at the present moment, fans are less likely to turn up to Solihull games compared to in the past when Coventry were in League Two and suffering with administration and out in Northampton, or Birmingham when they had the financial turmoil and the Chinese owners. That's all sorted now and they're all doing quite well. Before they'd experienced EFL players as well, like Joe Sabara and Labardi. This club has really been symbolised recently by the huge turnover in players, and the incomings just seem fairly scattergun to me. Ultimately, this disjointed team will end up relegated. 21st, Woking. Neil Ardley, I hold mixed opinions on, with him almost getting York relegated in what later proved to be good enough to challenge for the title. But last season, he did an all right job with Woking, but he did also get Notts County relegated to the National League for the first time ever. As you can tell, a very inconsistent manager. Woking typically are a side who struggles to compete with the bigger sides in this league and are therefore drawn into relegation battles. Other than Aidan O'Brien, Jaskalainen, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Craig Ross and Jake Hyde, there isn't any real quality. And of the ones I listed, 2 are goalkeepers and 2 are player coaches. I just think some of the quality coming up will cause the club to be relegated this season. Much like Mainhead and Dagenham last season, they clearly spent years treading water, and eventually they will fall through the gap. 20th, Aldershot Town. On average since 2018-19, Aldershot finished between 21st and 16th. If you exclude that one season, they did it phenomenally well to reach just before the play. I think it was just outside the playoffs. Therefore, it isn't totally outlandish to predict the FA Trophy winners to be just above the relegation zone. One out of the squad, I really only rate goal-scoring midfielder Josh Barrett, Lebanese international Hayley Gander, player coach from Millwall and Oxford legend James Henry, Matty Penny. To be fair, if he gets a consistent run, I think there is definitely a player there. And Tristan Abrahams, who was poor in a poor Maidenhead side, but was actually a bit of a gem. I do actually now feel slightly old, though, seeing Kwame Thomas at the age of 29 towards, let's be fair, the end of his playing career, potentially. And I remember him making his debut in my first season supporting Derby. So there's obviously some quality within this side. I just find it hard to justify them being much higher above a relegation battle, especially if you consider recent history. 19th, Brackley Town. They finally managed to get across the line and earn promotion to the National League after knocking on the door for as long as I remember. Gavin Cohen has now cemented himself as a legend of the club for a historic promotion, reaching the highest they've ever been after 7 consecutive finishes in the playoffs, albeit 2 of them didn't happen due to COVID, but they would have done if that was the case. So clearly a side which has consistently been at the top end of the National League North. But as Boston found out last season, it isn't always easy to adjust to national football, especially seeing how small the club is. It's a very tiny town, relatively speaking, and there's not really any big towns nearby to draw support on other than Northampton, but they have a decent side as it is. Keeping Connor Hall, who is the older brother of Newcastle player Lewis Hall, you may know that, may not. Well, he scored 16 goals last season, which was a pretty fundamental amount to see them promoted. Tyler Little is a great player to have. Jack Price, who was an important player with Wolves when they were in the Championship. I think that's a pretty savvy signing. Can't forget Scott Pollock's amazing 2022-23 campaign. When as a midfielder, he scored 14 goals in 27 appearances in the National League North with Boston. St Kitts and Nevis international Michael Nottingham is a great signing who has over 100 League One appearances. Shane Byrne is a Brackley legend from his previous spell between the years of 2016 to 2021 and was a key part of that FA Trophy winning side. And he's also captained Kidderminster Harriers to promotion from the National League North a couple of seasons back, replicating that magic last season with Brackley. Ryan Haynes is another good signing with a great deal of experience in League Two. As you can see from the balance of the squad, they're certainly more than capable of staying up, with a lethal midfield more than making up for the only major loss, I would say, in Alfie Bates. The only reason they aren't higher, in my opinion, is because the core of the squad hasn't experienced the National League, and they have one of the smallest fan bases in the league, and the manager has no experience at this level. But all these things create one of the best underdog stories in footballing history if they do stay up. 18th, Truro City. I think we can expect the home ground to be a bit of a fortress, considering how far away it is from every ground, apart from maybe Yeovil, you can argue. I reckon they'll be a bit like Plymouth or Portsmouth have been historically in the Championship. They stayed up on the basis of home form alone. And we all know the qualities that John Askey possesses as a manager at this level, albeit has proven a bit of a controversial manager at times, but that was mainly due to probably the unrealistic expectations of Hartlepool getting an instant return. And I know he is quite well liked at Macclesfield, Port Vale and York. His style of management tends to be quite attractive in a 4-3-3 high-tempo press, but also isn't opposed to changing it when it does go against him. This has proven success in the National League before, and I do reckon will somewhat be successful with Truro this coming season. The issue is there isn't really any standout players who do scream National League quality, but do have great team cohesion, with many of the players who have spent absolutely years at the club. A notable example, for example, is vice captain Tyler Harvey, who scored 38 in 88 games in his first spell with the club in between 2017 to 2019, and since has rejoined after a very, very short spell at Bath City, and has since made 171 appearances, scoring 107 goals. If these players can make the step up, then they'll be fairly comfortable. My only concern is some of them are long way trips that will cost a fair bit of money to the likes of Gateshead, Hartlepool, York, Carlisle, and Morecambe. There's a lot of northern teams in the National League this season. 17th, Boreham Wood. Their stay in the National League South was a very brief one, let's be honest, with an instant return, and they are used to the National League, so will surely stay up without doubt and probably be looking more towards mid-table. Fan favourite Luke Garrard is back, and I can guarantee the owners won't be so hasty to sack him again after the horror show of Ross Jenkins. Let's just look at what Garrard did with Boreham Wood in the National League. He took them to the playoff final in his third season in charge. He beat Blackpool in the FA Cup. He reached the fifth round of the FA Cup at a different point, beating Championship side Bournemouth, who were actually hunting for promotion that season, in what was arguably one of the greatest giant killings of all time. And they reached the playoff semi-finals in 2022-23. It cannot be denied this all marks up for a great manager on paper. They do have some great players like Boreham Wood veteran Ilan Sami and player assistant manager Jack Payne. Experience really does shape this side, so I think for a newly promoted side, 17th is a fair assessment. 16th, Gateshead. This will probably turn into yet another season where I criminally underestimate Gateshead, but I think Alan Armstrong is a fascinating choice of manager, who is obviously a household name for any person who lives in the North East, having managed Blyth Spartans for 3 years and Darlington for 4 years, but he has never managed higher than the Blyth Spartans than the National League North. I'm going to be honest, 2023 was a dire year for him. Having started so well, he took Darlington to third, but by the September 2022, it was that point, and then he ended the season in 10th. And then he started the following season even worse, and by the time of his dismissal on the 6th of September 2023, he left Darlington bottom of the league with a mountain to climb, and they needed Steve Watson to perform a miracle, really. These just aren't good signs for Gateshead, who are expecting now to compete at the top end of the table. On paper, they do have a great team with the likes of EFL veteran Callum Johnson, David Ferguson, who is a Hartlepool legend, although maybe for not much longer, seeing he has now joined their rivals. Ex-Derby County player, although in my opinion was never any good for us, in Jacob Butterfield. Coventry City's Ben Sheaf's brother, Max Sheaf. Ultimate journeyman, who I remember most from his time at Ipswich, in Frank Newble. But as many of you have noticed, this squad is quite old, with players who were in their prime about 10 years ago or so. I think maybe a bit of an injury-riddled season mixed with bad tactics, resulting in a disappointing lower mid-table 16th place finish. 15th, Braintree Town. Braintree were probably, for me, the surprise package of the National League last season, finishing in 17th, and I thought they'd very likely be relegated. Now, they have lost Harrop, but I think Steve Pitt proved himself excellently last season, casting away any fears of relegation. I think this season will be a marginal improvement to 15th, partly because they have not rocked the boat with large changes, bringing in a couple and moving out 3. It's this sort of fine-tuning which I think shall bring improvements. Alan Judge is now a player for Braintree, having signed back in January. And I wonder if anyone like me remembers him from his days at Brentford or Ipswich. I was impressed by Shea Cooper last season. And they also have John Akinde, who was a great goal scorer in League Two, scoring 87 goals in 166 games for Barnet and 20 goals in 68 for Lincoln City, and has also achieved 3 promotions from League Two and 1 from the conference, as well as winning the FA Trophy. So they certainly have some legends of a game, and for that reason, they will be mid-table. 14th, Wealdstone. Having just stayed up last season, I think they'll return to mid-table this upcoming season. Sam Cox is a risky appointment after that dismal spell at Oxford City, but he's definitely a manager to watch out for. I think he's got a lot of potential. There's some good players at their disposal, such as club legend Max Kretschmar, whose 2 assists, one of which was one of the best crosses probably seen in non-league to ensure the survival in the National League last season, that final day against Halifax. That will go down in the history books. They have a very international squad, actually, with English, Cypriot, Dutch, Belgian, Kenyan, Somalian, and Burundian players. This multicultural side, I think, will ensure mid-table due to the joy of staying up last season mainly. 13th, Eastleigh. They have been mid-table every season since they finished in the playoffs in 2018-19 and have only reached the playoffs twice since getting promoted from the Conference South in 2013-14. So it's hardly unexpected for me to say that it will be another mid-table season. Helvin Davis is just continuing this mid-table averageness. And like all mid-table sides, they have some decent players, but some bad ones as well. Some good ones, for example, are youngster Louis Fernandez, serial goal scorer Paul McCallum, who with Eastleigh is currently on 39 goals in 52 appearances in 2 seasons, with 31 of them coming in 38 appearances during the 2023-24 season. He may actually get poached potentially by a team in the league above by the end of the window. Josh Lundstrom, who helped Oldham to promotion from the National League last season, Jamaican international, and some may remember his name in the Championship with Charlton Athletic, QPR, Stoke City, and Wigan Athletic in the form of Jordan Cousins. Grenadian international Aaron Pierre, who was a great player at Northampton and Shrewsbury. But they also have some utter rubbish players. Hey, for example, Lord Humphreys, who I think is just distinctively average. Temi Awika has been brought in as an upgrade, but has only ever made 5 National League appearances, so I'm not really holding my breath. In a similar way, and also a defender, Aaron Blair, who is rubbish in the air. you can get a bit of a chant going on that one, isn't it? Aaron Blair is rubbish in the air, throwing his head everywhere. There you go. Ultimately, on the surface, they look to have invested in the defence as they are already decent in attack, but I actually think they've downgraded by losing Lee Hodson. So I think it will be another bang average season. 12th, Morecambe. The situation at Morecambe is absolutely farcical, and there are numerous questions of whether they're even going to start the season. We had those same questions around Southend, though, in 2022-23, and they still finished 9th, despite having 10 points deducted. Of course, the situation here is completely different, with the owner refusing to sell the club, despite failing a fit and proper persons testing the EFL. Vicious marks for the latest problems with Morecambe, who have tons of debts from Mizuna Stadium and have historically, and I think they may currently be, not paying any wages. So all around, not a great situation to be in. I find Derek Adams arrogant and actually not that good of a manager, but seeing the farce going on behind the scenes, they would be stupid to remove him, albeit I think it would actually improve the side. They still have some EFL standard players such as Luke Hendry, Jan Songo, Gwayan Edwards, and Jack Stretton. Stretton, I remember him from his time at Derby, who made 13 appearances in the Football League before some spells in League Two. The whole situation is just not very pretty, but we have seen this before. Adversity can bring teams together, so I think mid-table may be achievable. It's an interesting one. If you want to find out more about Morecambe, just Google anything on YouTube or a web browser and stuff. And the BBC recently released an article about what's all going on. I could make a whole video itself, and it would last about 40 minutes diving into the problems at Morecambe. So I'm not going to go on for too long about that. 11th, Sutton United. Steve Morrison was the manager responsible for Sutton's relegation and failed to deliver an instant return last season. You seriously have to question how he's still in the job. I think if it was any other EFL club which had that, he would be gone. But Sutton realistically are a mid-table National League side, so that's probably all Morrison will deliver while at the club. I think Edon Pruti is a good signing who has a great deal of potential. On the other end of the age spectrum, you have Alex Woodyard, who's made over 100 appearances for AFC Wimbledon and earned promotion from the National League with Lincoln City. But I do look at the overall quality, and I'm seeing several weaknesses, notably in midfield, but also quite shallow in depth as well. I don't think it'll be a disastrous campaign, but mid-table finish is highly likely for another season. 10th, I'm going with Scunthorpe United, the biggest of our promoted clubs without a shadow of a doubt, and also who I suspect will go from strength to strength this season and be upper mid-table. Andy Butler, from his short spell in men's senior football, has already been hugely successful, earning promotion in his first season. There are some big names such as Andy Boyce, Mark Beck, and Cian Scales. Realistically, they have the name to pull players to them, and also have a huge fan base willing them on. So I think a solid 10th place season overall. 9th, Rochdale. I'm sorry, but Jimmy McNulty just isn't doing it for me. And I think there is a ceiling on Rochdale as long as he is the manager, to be honest. It is by far one of the biggest squads in the National League. So, of course, I can rattle off some great names like Ryan East, 2023 National League playoff winner, and Toby Adebayo Rowling, former Manchester United youth prospect Aidan Barlow, Liam Hogan, who I think has probably been to every lower EFL Greater Manchester side, and Rochdale legend Ian Henderson, who in his first spell at the club made 297 appearances and scored 112 goals between 2013 and 2020. And since returning in 2022, he has still been a regular, making 123 appearances, but has lost some of that goal scoring prowess, but still an impressive 28 goals. So obviously on paper, the squad is good enough. But in the immortal words of Brian Clough, on paper, the game was good enough, but unfortunately, the game is won on grass. We frequently see at Rochdale that the smaller teams up their games when playing against them and create a difficulty in ensuring results. For this reason, I think a decrease in performance, but still do well, but miss out on the playoffs in 9th. 8th, SC Halifax Town. The Shaman have cemented themselves recently as a playoff challenger on a fairly regular basis. My main concern is the appointment of Adam Lakeland, who, yes, has done a great job in the National League North over the last few seasons, but this is a different league, quite literally. The difference is not only notable in terms of distance, but also most of the clubs in the National League are professional, whereas most of the National League North are semi-professional. The levels of fitness between the two is astronomical and will take a bit of a time to get used to. However, I think he will adapt and overcome, especially with that squad consisting of club legend Sam Johnson, Max Wright, and Florent Houghty. So I think, say, another successful season. Just missing the mark in the playoffs by the closest in margins for me. 7th, Altrincham. They are usually competing for the playoffs nowadays, and this season will be no different. Phil Parkinson, not Wrexham manager, he's in charge of Altrincham, and has actually broken the record for the longest-serving Altrincham manager, a milestone rarely surpassed in the 21st century, I'd say. And congratulations to him. I mean, what a manager. You can see why. He's taken Altrincham from a Northern Premier League to becoming a professional club and frequently knocking on the door of the playoffs. So, yeah. Tom Crawford, as well, is a great player, having done great things with Hartlepool, winning the FA Trophy with AFC Fylde, as well as reaching the National League playoffs with both, winning them with Hartlepool. Billy Sass-Davis comes back to Altrincham after making 9 league appearances with them in 2 separate loan spells in the past. And we've already spoken how Keaton Ward is just great at scoring goals from midfield. For me, this club is going back to the playoffs this season. 6th, Southend United. Southend snuck into the playoffs at the end of the season last season, and I suspect a very similar season to take place this time. Kevin Mayer has proved he was a good manager. He guided them through adversity, and now Southend are at the other end of it. I do feel that Mayer can guide Southend to another playoff finish. They obviously have the side capable of reaching the playoff final, seen by last season. And Noor Hussein, who has made almost 150 appearances for the Shrimpers in all competitions, has made 20 international appearances for Afghanistan. So certainly one to keep your eye on. Sam Austin was a key part of that Notts County side, which earned promotion from the National League in 2023. I do rate the signing of Leon Chambers-Parallon, who has just had 2 great seasons with Slough Town. James Morton is that anchor in Southend's midfield. The appointment of Jack Ola as a player goalkeeper coach is a good one, who has achieved a League 2 promotion with Bristol Rovers and an underdog win in the Scottish League Cup with Kilmarnock. Overall, they're a side, especially due to that midfield, which I think you would be a fool to say would not reach the playoffs this season. 5th, Tamworth. They clearly have a plan in place and are really going places, seen by a solid mid-table season last season after being promoted from the National League North. When Andy Peakes moved to Tamworth in 2022, it was after a 9-year spell with AFC Rushden Diamonds, and Tamworth are a mid-table side in the Southern League Central. After taking over the reins there, he achieved back-to-back promotions and were playoff challengers somewhat last season, missing out on the playoffs by only 4 points. Some would even go far to say that Andy Peakes is the best manager in non-league, and you would find it hard to argue against. There are some other good names out there, but he's certainly one of them. They pride themselves on having a solid defence, which, although not as good as the previous season when they were in the National League North, it was still good enough to get them in mid-table, you know. Defender Callum Cockrell-Mollett is one of the key parts of that defence, as is Hayden Hollis. Jordan Ponticelli is a decent striker, but probably needs a bit more game time. Alfie Bates is a great signing from Brackley, who's a key part of that National League North title-winning side. Stefan Mols is a goal-scoring midfielder who over the last 2 years with Curzon Ashton has scored 23 goals in 77 National League North games. So for me, another great signing. Joe Riley is another good signing from AFC Fylde. Another signing from Fylde is Jamaican international Tyler Roberts, who is still quite young at 21. Harvey Sayer is a great winger to sign who has scored 39 goals in 78 games in the Isthmian League Division 1 North, and after his goals helped as well with achieving promotion and then continuing to bang with it in the Southern League Central with Lowestoft Town. 19-year-old Ruben Wyatt adds to that midfield, and I think you could just see there from this brief snapshot that the model that Tamworth has is a clear one. They take better players that are young in the league or two below and help them adjust to the level they are currently playing at, and in the process continue at both a personal development on the player, but also improve the team as a whole, and has clearly had a great success. Therefore, it wouldn't actually surprise me if they finish in the playoffs. Fourth, Hartlepool United. Simon Grayson is an appointment from the wilderness, so to say. But by that, I mean that he has spent the last year with Nepalese side Lalitpur City, who he won the Nepal Super League with. And before that, he was with Bengaluru, winning the Durand Cup and finishing in runners-up in the Indian Super League and the Indian Super Cup. But he has had his successes in England as well. It's not as if it's just coming from the Indian subcontinent success, because he's won League One promotion 4 times in 8 years with 4 separate clubs. So despite maybe being slightly left of field, they have appointed a serial winner. I don't think he really has a horror show of a spell at any of the clubs. He has had some abject ones, admittedly, but he's never led a team to relegation. So despite Singh's obsession with making bizarre managerial appointments, he does bring in some good players. Vastly experienced Tom Parks, who was captain of Bristol Rovers, helping them to a conference and League 2 promotion in consecutive seasons. Adam Campbell, who scored 13 goals in 43 appearances in the National League with Gateshead after he helped them to the National League North promotion the season before. A move which helped him move to Crawley Town, which he then chalked up another promotion, this time from League 2. Nathan Sharon, who was a regular with Oldham prior to moving to Hartlepool in 2024. Nicky Featherstone, who has made over 400 appearances with Hartlepool, being their 3rd highest ever appearance holder, a loyalty which I think is rarely seen in this day and age, and so was obviously a part of that previous National League playoff winning side in 2021. What a player. I highly rate Louis Stevenson. Would be great to see him cement a regular spot this season. Signing Jay Ben is an intense signing, seeing he was a pivotal reason Solihull reached the FA Trophy final and playoffs in 2023-24. Former Hartlepool Academy graduate Brad Walker, who made over a century of league appearances with the Monkey Hangers in League 2, and he has returned for this season. Danny Johnson is back in the North East, where he has scored buckets in the past, including 51 goals in 48 appearances for Gisborough Town and 44 goals in 110 appearances at Gateshead. He even scored 10 last season, despite being injured for some of it, for Warsaw in the season that ended in a bit of a disappointment and playoff heartbreak in the end. But that wasn't on him. They have constructed a side well capable of reaching the playoffs, but finished just short in the previous 2 seasons. And maybe the past successes of Grayson can be transferred to Hartlepool and provide a little bit of a magic, to seal a playoff finish. 3rd, Carlisle United. I think Mark Hughes will be great at this level, albeit he did fail to keep Carlisle up last season. I do think he's going to have to adapt his tactics away from a Premier League style of football to suit non-league, but people like Robbie Savage in the past have proven that actually can be an effective way of managing as well. I look at the side and it does scream EFL quality. Archie Davis, who I thought was decent with Crawley. The signing of David Ajiboye is a great one, as he has achieved National League promotion before with Sutton United and has also been runners-up and a winner of the EFL Trophy before. During that season when Sutton got promoted, he was arguably the best right midfielder in the league, for example. Harry Lewis is a top goal scorer who has played under Mark Hughes before. Elliot Embleton, who was fantastic when he burst onto the scene with Sunderland and with Blackpool, he achieved League One promotion with both sides. He made one appearance for Derby before having an absolute horror of an injury on a loan. I wonder if any of the Derby fans who watch my channel will remember that. Charlie White came back in 2024 after that amazing spell between 2015 and 2017, where he scored 32 in 77 games, but having an equally impressive record of 22 goals in 56 games for Bradford, and then 34 in 94 games at Sunderland. Josh Grant is a great signing who was at one point when at Chelsea's academy tipped for really great things, and he did help Bristol Rovers to League Two promotion as well. Alan Armstrong's son Luke Armstrong, who has made over 100 league appearances for Harrogate Town, helping that side to reach the EFL for the first time in their history. They also have internationals with a St. Lucian and Ugandan international. I feel it will be a relatively successful season, finishing in the playoffs, involved maybe in a title challenge. Second, Forest Green Rovers. The appointment of Robbie Savage is a risk, there is no denying it, but he did have a good spell with Macclesfield, securing a promotion to the National League North, completely uncatchable in any way, shape or form. They have some of the best National League players, such as Charlie McCann, who has been there really with the highs and lows at Forest Green. Welsh League Cup back-to-back winner, Christian Deutsch, who scored 11 goals last season. Liam Sercombe, who is now a household name for in the Southwest region and made over 100 appearances for Exeter, Bristol Rovers and Cheltenham Town, and is obviously now at Forest Green Rovers. Joe Quidgley, whose goals helped Chesterfield to the National League promotion a couple of seasons back. So it's understandable that this star-studded squad will reach the playoffs and probably going to be in a title challenge. First, York City. 96 points would normally be enough to win a title, but because of how great Barnet were last season, York just missed out and failed in the lottery of the playoffs. Hinshelwood is clearly a great manager who has consistently overperformed expectations with his clubs, with turning York from relegation contenders to title contenders, earning promotion from the Isthmian League with Worthy and then immediately making them a playoff challenge in the league above. He has over a win every other game in his 67 games in charge of York, as well as that time during Worthing, and his sides have scored 115 goals, and in his 367 games in charge of Worthing, his side scored actually 721 goals. So he's clearly a manager with attacking intent. Ryan Fallowfield was part of a Harrogate side, is somebody in the team which is part of that Harrogate side that won promotion from the National League North and the National League, and won the FA Trophy with them as well. York City, Paddy McLaughlin was part of the side when York last time won promotion from the conference back in 2011-12. It feels a long time ago now, and has come back to the club being a regular player since rejoining in 2018-19. Alex Hunt, who is becoming well accustomed to men's football, with last season really being his first season as a regular starter. Ricky Aguiar, who went on loan with Worthing in 2023-24, scored 11 league goals in 25 appearances. The signing of Chesterfield legend Ollie Banks, who helped them achieve promotion from League Two and the National League, and was still a key part of that side, which reached the playoffs in League Two last season and won promotion from League Two with Tranmere Rovers. I don't think there was a better signing in the National League this season, to be honest, than Ollie Banks. 22-year-old Joe Gray comes in from Hartlepool, who is a quick, skillful player who is versatile, able to play on as a centre forward or a winger, but in any position does show good work ethic. And in his debut season of men's football, helped the Pool to promotion to the Football League. Ash Palmer also comes from Chesterfield, being a bit part player with them when they won promotion from the National League. But I think more importantly was when he was a pivotal player with Stockport County, where he made 40 league appearances in both seasons that they earned promotion, one from the National League North and the other from the National League. They have brought in required experience for me of National League promotion, and they are definitely, for me, highly likely to win the league. Thank you very much for watching that video. Please do subscribe if you are new around here. Let me know your comment down below, your predictions. I've got the League 2 ones, hopefully up by the end of this week, maybe starting next week. But yeah, looking forward to the start of the season. Not these meaningless preseason friendlies. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye for now.